right, 2022 is here. 2021 is gone. 2021 was a good year for movies, so I thought I would talk a little bit about the top 10 movies I saw in 2021. I didn't want to do a top 20 list, so here's some honorable mentions that just missed the top 10. I think you should check out Belfast, Kenneth Branagh's childhood memoir about growing up in a divided Ireland in the 60s. A really good movie, a really great soundtrack. Antlers, the Wendigo horror movie, directed by Scott Cooper, produced by Guillermo del Toro. Looks very much like a del Toro movie. Well worth your time. Bo Burnham, Inside, which was somewhere kind of between a comedy special, a concert, and a guy just kind of losing it in quarantine. Very unique, very fun watch. Not just a comedy show, but like really made you think. Summer of Soul, amazing concert film. This is a concert that in New York, which was just this massive free concert that happened right around Woodstock, but the movie they made for it never made it out. So you got all kinds of really cool history from civil rights people and people involved in the music, the soul and R&B music scene of then. Just if you're into music, it's fantastic. Definitely check out. Marvel had some good movies. Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. I thought both were really solid Marvel movies. I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they really went beyond the mold, but very good. I mean, very well done. Enjoyed them. And the Sparks Brothers, documentary about a band I've never heard of, and I think I've heard of like every band, as much time as I spend on music. Hello, Kitty. The Sparks Brothers is a documentary on this incredible band going like 50 years now by Edgar Wright. And if you never heard of the band, it still is a very entertaining watch getting to know the band through the movie. So I recommend. Anyway, there can only be 10, and those are the ones that I didn't feel quite made it. So now, the top 10. Number 10, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm at an age where a lot of this nostalgia being made in movies right now is aimed, directly at me. And if it's this good, I'm okay with that. I just thought this movie hit every beat if you're a fan of the original movie. This is I thought it was just fantastic. And I don't want to talk about this or most of the movies on the list because I don't want to, if you haven't seen them, it's always better to experience them yourself. But, if you loved the first movie, I can't stress enough you gotta check this one out. I mean, if you love the cartoon, if you love this is like right on, I think, as far as Ghostbusters fandom goes. I was totally pleased. Number 9, Godzilla vs. Kong. This is the follow-up to King of the Monsters, the Godzilla movie a couple years ago, and Kong, Skull Island. They kind of collide in this one. It's a whole new story, but it's obviously a remake of the classic from back in the day. They dropped a lot of the human story from King of the Monsters, which most of the story comes from that side of the franchise, but it's not bad because that means it's more time for the monsters. And that's what I was watching the movie for, is the monsters. I don't think this raked in enough cash to keep this series going, so I'm bummed we probably won't get to see Gigan and Megalon in one of these, but this was great kaiju fun. Definitely check it out if you're a fan of any of that stuff. Number 8, Here Today. In case you missed it, this was like a deeply moving story. It's about a comedy writer, played by Billy Crystal, and his struggle to mend his broken relationships with his family as his dementia is getting worse. And Tiffany Haddish is great as this young jazz singer who pushes him to confront these issues and becomes like his unlikely friend and caregiver. This is a really moving story. I mean, it's really, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I'm a big fan of Billy Crystal. Like his action comedies and his pure comedies and even his stand-up, but I don't think that really colored what I saw, because it was a really good movie. Just as far as human drama goes, it'll really get right at you, especially if you're getting a few years on you like myself. Number 7, Candyman. This is somehow a reboot, a remake, and a sequel at the same time to one of the biggest horror movies of the 80s. Just like the original, this one is really intelligent, and it smuggles in some really insightful messages about racism, classism, police violence. And I like that because it triggered all the horror fans who don't want to think about any of those things, who are always saying they don't want any politics at all in movies. But I don't know how you could like the first one because it's full of that as well. I don't see how somebody could miss that, honestly. But anyway, really good movie, really, really timely, and a good horror story as well. Number 6, Nobody. This is Bob Odenkirk. As you probably saw the previews, he's this total milquetoast guy who would never hurt a fly, and everybody pushes him around, and it turns out he's actually a reformed, like, former Black Ops guy who could just, like, kill a busload of people with a pencil kind of story. And this is about how he has to kind of find that again to defend his family when he gets pulled back into his old life that he's left behind. And it was really amazing because it's kind of like in the 80s when Bruce Willis was cast in Die Hard and everyone was like, why is that comedy guy in an action movie? And he kind of redefined what an action hero is about. This kind of has vibes like that for Bob, who's a great writer and comedian and actor who I've been a big fan of ever since Mr. Show. Or going back to the Ben Stiller Show, actually. So, lots of fun. Very good. Check out Nobody. Number 5, Wrath of Man. Okay, without giving away a whole bunch of stuff, imagine if that movie Heat, by Michael Mann, that 4-hour-long, like, crime, drama, thriller, action, intense ride. Imagine if that was directed by Guy Ritchie. That's kind of what you'd get here. It's not just an action movie. It's not just a heist movie. It's not just an excuse for Jason Statham to kick ass. It's all those things and it's then some. A really fascinating story shot from several different angles. I recommend this one, yeah. Very good. Number 4, House of Gucci. A lot of people knock this because of the accents. But, it was either that or subtitles. The kiss of death in American movies. So, I was willing to overlook it. This is one of 2 movies made by Ridley Scott. He made the Last Duel, which everybody I know on film Twitter was just crushed and really angry that didn't become a huge hit and it basically kind of flopped. I haven't seen it yet. I probably will, but all I know is I don't understand the hate for this one because, like, the true crime aspect of it, it's really, how in, like, a crummy true crime movie, Jump, you know exactly what's going on. The heel of the story, the person who's setting up their house's murder, it's all about the money, and they've always been doing that all along, and they're just cold as ice. And the victim is a hero, and they would, they didn't deserve any of this that happened to them and all that. It's not like that. It actually shows how a normal person kind of wanders off the path and ends up at that point because the huge amounts of money and fame and all that stuff that warps people's minds is all around the characters in the story. So I was really impressed, and aside from Jared Leto, who I really don't care for in any context, the whole cast is really good once you get past the accent thing. And Lady Gaga, I think reminds me of Cher, who back in the 80s when she started showing up in movies and everyone was like, oh, she's a washed up singer, she shouldn't be in movies and that's not to be taken seriously. And then she just starts turning in good performance after good performance, eventually getting nominated for Oscars, Golden Globes, and I think get on board now because that's going to be Lady Gaga. She's so charismatic and seems to be so talented at all the stuff she does. So check it out. Number 3, Dune. A lot of people knocked this one too because it was long and took a long time to get cranking. There's a kind of a world building thing going on because this is a huge, massive story. Of course, most people know the 80s film was massively long and it even missed a whole bunch of stuff from the books. It looked so fantastic and everybody was just perfectly cast, and I really hope we get more of these because this one ends right when it gets to the point that you think it's about to start kicking up because you can only put so much in. You have to cut some stuff out, so I'm really hoping to see more because this was just great. Number 2, Malignant. Okay, the twist to this movie seemed kind of obvious, but it wasn't. I kind of guessed what was going to happen, but I had no idea how it was going to happen and how insane things were going to go in the third act of this movie. This one is just fantastic. I'm not going to describe any more of it. Just if you're into horror movies, if you're into those old Italian ones, there's a lot of kind of Argento, kind of Fulci kind of flair to this. Although it's not giallo, if I'm saying that right, or giallo. I don't know how you say it, but I've only ever read it. But But yeah, I mean, James Wan directed it, and I always thought he was good. I mean, what he's done with Saw and Insidious, I mean, I always thought he was good, but this movie, to me, like, this is him reaching the next level, where he's like Fangoria Hall of Fame, kind of like John Carpenter, or Tobey Hooper, or just one of the all-time greats, I think, and I'm really excited to see what he does next, because this was just a monster. Check it out. Number 1. Last Night in Soho. This one is Edgar Wright. This one you come into thinking from the ad campaign it's going to be one of those bizarre, kind of non-linear, kind of just realities all over the place kind of movies. And it has that quality. It does have that aspect with these dream sequences that kind of blend together, that kind of have trouble telling what's real and what's dream. And that's Edgar Wright's, just brilliant direction. And the whole cast is great. As you go through expecting that kind of ride, you discover you're actually in a movie that makes very much linear sense to you. You're not getting this abstract, arty movie that you thought you were going to. It's got a plot you can follow, kind of like Stir of Echoes or Lady in White, not to give away too much, and just really masterfully done. I definitely was blown away by it. And Matt Smith, my favorite Doctor Who, has just this great turn as a heel in this one. I don't feel like I'm spoiling that you kind of get that vibe the minute he shows up. But yeah, this is another one that it's fun to kind of go through yourself and discover what it's all about. So I say it was the best movie I saw. So that's my top 10 for 2021. Looking forward to 2022. What are some of your favorites of 2021? Sound off in the comments. If you could like or share or subscribe, that would be great. I don't do the Patreon or the monetization or any of that. Just here to talk about things I find interesting. So look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks for listening.